Good afternoon and welcome to Finding the Joy in the Journey. My name is Rev Gina and I am blessed to be the host of this hour. And we are going to do just that, talk about joy and finding and creating more of it in our life. It's not about out there finding it, it's finding it right where we are. Nothing has to change but our perspective. So we are here knowing that life is all about the good stuff. And we spend so much of our life doing that sometimes it's just taking a twist and being and recognizing that the joy is in the journey, not the destination. So that's what we're all about. It's not about someday I will and fill in the blank. Or when I have this, then I'll take that vacation. When I retire, then I'll be able to. Or I'll buy that car once I've saved X amount, or I'll do this. It's not about planning just for the future. What are you doing right here, right now, to appreciate this day and create more joy in it? Because all we have to do is recognize that divine quality of joy. It is always within us, so that we are tapping in. That's what this hour is all about, is tapping into that joy in different ways. So I am blessed to have a wonderful, wonderful guest today who is incredibly inspirational and just has a joy for life. She has had quite the story herself, and through the wisdom that she gained from her journey, she shares it with us that we can have that much brighter a path. So today I am blessed to bring Reverend Dr. Michelle Wadleigh. She's an inspiring and exciting coach, master teacher, speaker, workshop, and retreat facilitator. She's the co-founder of Planned Happiness Institute and the PHI Coaching Academy with her husband, Reverend Neil Pinkman. Michelle founded the Center for Spiritual Living in North Jersey 20 years ago and continues to serve as a spiritual leader and is a 21-year graduate of IPEC Coaching Institute. She is an incredibly unique practical teacher who's passionate about you mastering a fully expressed life. She's grounded in solid metaphysical principles and brings her teaching to through a wide open heart, along with a sense of humor, joyfully demonstrated through her laughter and her engaging style. Her focus as a teacher is empowering others for their own spiritual and emotional liberation through the application of practical tools and methods, including the science of mind. She is a straight shooter who calls things like she sees them while using her easygoing personal style. She brings a wealth of experience from having helped thousands of people to experience great transformation in their lives. Some of the lessons that she brings everywhere are everything is consciousness, consciousness first, consciousness always, there is no other. Michelle has spent years developing her courses in forgiveness, shadow work, and perfecting her unique approach to working with individuals called the Radical Release Method. Michelle is the author of 4 books: Prosperous Me, 40 Days to Freedom, Lenten Practices for a Modern Mind, and So It Is, May Silence Be Your Guide, and Forgiveness, A Path, a Promise, a Way of Life, which is a workbook for emotional and spiritual freedom. And that's the one we're really going to be talking a lot about today because it is hot off the presses. She's an amazing woman and she has a style all her own. So I am blessed to bring in Reverend Dr. Michelle Wadleigh. Thank you for being here with us here on Finding the Joy in the Journey. We are so happy to have you here.
Well, it's good to be here, and it feels like home since I had the year of doing shows for New Thought Media, which was really a lot of fun. So it's good to be back, and thank you, Gina. Thank you.
And you've been here before. You have been on our show before, this show before as well.
Yes, yep, yours and Reverend Sherry's, and once with oh my God, oh, the new minister from England. Oh my God,
Reverend Laura.
Laura, right? Oh my God, yes, yes,
Laura
yes.
Topper. Yes, she's a
Her name, yes, yeah. So
wonderful.
I have played, and I love when Robert asks me to come on. So it's always fun.
Absolutely. So today we are going to cover, I'm sure, a bunch of different topics because it always goes wherever it goes. But I'm really excited. I'm excited about your new book, and I want to share with people. This is the this is a couple. This is a couple of her books, but forgiveness is the main one that we're going to talk about today. This is a workbook, a path, a promise, a way of life, and you just received a copy, right? Didn't you
I'm
just? Was it
up there
yesterday?
on my shelf. Yep, it is. It's not even officially out yet. Home office, I have it published through Park Point Press with CSL, and so they're still signing off on it. But what happened was one of my greetings, Martha Christie. One of my practitioners ordered a copy, and she said, "I got a copy of it." How do you get a copy? It's not available. Well, sure enough, it is available. So I was very excited, and I ordered mine, and my husband ordered his, and a couple of other people. But the official, it's still like a few days away. I need home office to tell me, yeah, go, but
It
I
is
can't.
official. It's already on Amazon. So if you're looking for it, feel free to put in Reverend Michelle's name and go right to Amazon and get your copy.
Great.
Hello.
Hello, Evelyn, my beloved practitioner and minister in our community. Lovely. So
And Wayne,
it's
too, from Calvary. We want to
yeah.
make sure we send a
Hello.
shout out to Wayne as well.
Hello. You said a couple things, and I I realize I want to speak to something that I feel like is in the air. And my latest blog that I wrote, well, I wrote a blog, and then I wrote something for my community, and it's called a timely response. Because the thing about talking to people within the community, everybody's always trying to be on their best behavior, and everybody's always trying to um, be spiritual and be happy. Well, right now, we're coming out of the fog, right? We're coming out of the fog, but I just don't want to talk to people and act like they're supposed to be okay when they might not be feeling okay yet. And I just want to say that. And if you're not feeling okay yet, it's understandable. We've been through a crazy few years.
Trauma.
Our world as we knew it is
Trauma.
yeah, yeah, there's been some trauma. Yeah. And it's everything's different. Nothing is as it was. So I just, that doesn't really have to do with forgiveness, although I could easily tie it in. But it's just, I really want to say to everybody who hears this, dear God, please be gentle with yourself. Please be
And
gentle.
even when there's no underlying anything, please be gentle with yourself.
Yeah.
However you feel,
Yeah.
you're supposed to feel. We are not about spiritual bypass. We know on an inherent level all is well. Joy is at the center of our being, but it
Right.
is not always our current experience.
Right. Right.
So it's not about pretending, it's
Yeah.
about being in a place of allowing ourselves to be where we are and make our way out of it, because covering it up keeps us there.
Right, right. Yeah, there has to be, and then what happens is somebody will say, "Well, what about when you pay?" Because it says that whatever you pay attention to grows, and yes, that is a spiritual fact that people teach, but there's a nuance around that, and the nuance is that trying to hide it and stuff it is another way of paying attention to it. And when you pay attention to it in that way, that festers like a boil. It festers inside.
It goes
You have
septic.
to, yeah, you have to release the energy. You must release the energy so you can get to the other side of it, which is what which is, and now I'll tie it together if you don't mind. Now that's what the forgiveness workbook is all about. The workbook, which is really my baby, it has been my most significant. Anything else I did before now was, I'd say, easy by comparison. This was, for me, this was the biggest effort, the most significant amount of time and energy that I've ever put into something. And at one point, because I've been teaching a forgiveness course for years now, and I want to give a shout out to Reverend Jim Stark, who has been so instrumental in me getting to this point, because he kept giving me a platform to teach, and I kept having classes, and I learned in the classes. I wasn't just teaching, I was paying attention. And so I learned, and from learning, I kept developing the course more and more. And it's that course that developed over years that has now turned into this book. And when I first got the advice of a colleague of mine, and I sent him the document, he's in publishing, and I sent him the document. He looked at it, he goes, okay, he says, but it was about 20,000 words at the time. He says, you need between 50 and 60. I went, oh my God, you want me to more than double it? Well, so that was the task. And how do I double it? Not have it be filled with emptiness. I want it to be meaningful. And so that was the task. I felt like somebody gave me an assignment. And I wanted it good for religious scientists. I wanted it good for unity people. I wanted it good for spiritual people. I wanted anyone to be who was in the realm of spirituality and metaphysics. I wanted all those people to be able to pick up this book and and dive into it and find themselves on the pages. Um, and and I do believe I've done that. I do believe that I have done that.
Well,
It was.
oh, I'm sorry. I think, we teach what we need to learn the most. Like we teach what's, I believe that we're in it for a reason. The reason why we've been drawn to it is because we need it. And I know I've been through actually weekend workshops with you, as well as I did this past weekend. I was in your Saturday workshop on forgiveness. And, you know, every time we look at a topic, oftentimes different things come up.
Mhm,
It doesn't become, for me
mhm,
anyway, it's not, even if you're looking at something again, it looks differently
mhm,
because it's an allowance. It becomes more natural. It becomes easier to do when you get in the flow of it. And for me, I know self-forgiveness, that's been the path that has in my experience been least spoken about, but what I've needed the most.
mhm, mhm.
Can you go
Um,
into that a little bit? What is, for people that don't necessarily feel like that's their stuff? What is that? What is self forgiveness all about?
huh. I have been on this planet now for 65 years. I have three sons, three grandchildren, two husbands. Um, I've been through many relationships. I haven't had that many jobs. I've had a number. I've started in the restaurant business, went into sales, trucking sales, back into the restaurant business, sometimes at the same time, and now been a minister for 21 years. When you live that much life, you create, if you have opportunities to make mistakes. You have a lot of opportunities. I've had a lot of opportunities to make mistakes. I came out of a I came out of a life situation that was really one notch away from white trash. I'm not trying to be funny or be dramatic here. I'm just saying what is. My life experience, my education level, which is nil, as formal academia goes. The education of my family, both my mother and father. I don't think my father got past sixth grade, and my mother didn't get past eight. We had a abusive, alcoholic household with too many children and stories, ugly stories that I don't even know all of them, and I wouldn't want to tell because some of those stories aren't mine; they're my family's, and and they're my siblings, and I only have one living sibling to even that left of that clan. I'm one of seven. Out of all of that, I I just kept I just kept stumbling over myself and stumbling over myself, trying, and um, it's not Nona Brooks. What's her name? Emma Curtis Hopkins. She talks about how when we're trying to just get through, that sometimes in trying to get through, we do the best we can, but we bump up against people. We don't mean to do it. Well, the truth is, when I look back at the things I did to survive my youth and then to try to be a young adult, I had no clue. And in having no clue, I just kept making mistakes one after the other. I mean, I wasn't some kind of rotten person, but I was so hungry for things that I thought I didn't have. And so I reached for them in all the wrong places. I made errors everywhere. And so when I think back, and now, because now, of course, I'm talking about the book all the time, I'm in the interviews, I'm teaching the classes. So what's happening? Anything that I did that was on my mind is like coming to the surface. And I'll lay in bed at night, and there will be this amount of mistakes and errors and transgressions that I've made that come to mind, and I lay in bed going to sleep, and I think to myself, I accept myself as I am and as I am not. I accept myself as I am not. I forgive myself. I forgive my transgressions. And I have to live into that on a regular basis. But that's because I'm conscious and I want it to come up, because if it doesn't come up, I'm at the mercy of it. What I know is there are people walking this planet, millions of people walking this planet that are not conscious. And so what's happening is people are trying to survive on top of their discontent, on top of their self-judgment. And it's hard. If you don't learn to love yourself and forgive yourself, no one else can do that for you. No one else. I remember, and before writing my own book, now I get to recommend my own book, which is so great. It was always Colin Tipping's book that I would recommend. I mean, it's a great book. Radical Forgiveness. I got it right there sitting on my shelf. And as a teacher, that was one of the main, I told my students, my prac students, you got to do the four agreements, radical forgiveness, um, of course, science of mind, oh, and the shadow work. Those are the four beautiful legs of a table, strong table had all those things. And except I remember I met radical, I met Colin Tipping when he was just coming on the scene. Someone had him at we had him at our ministers gathering in the UCLA Center in Lake Arrowhead, and he was a beautiful being. I'm sorry that he's not with us any longer. And so he was doing his teaching and his exercises and such. But I knew from my own spiritual teacher decades before, I knew that self-forgiveness was the meaty part of this. And we were doing this exercise, and I looked at him. I said, Colin, what about self-forgiveness? And he goes, well, you could work on that later. Do this now. And I'm like, oh, because we were doing an exercise. Now, being the radical that I am, I didn't listen to him. I put my own name in the exercise, whatever it was. But that's what I wanted to make sure that in my book, I made sure I gave it enough attention. So, because it's not easy to see what's landed on your heart. We have scars and we have wounds, and they're not easy to catch. And sometimes they're just subtle little things. They're just subtle. Me overreacting to my grandson. My grandson, oh God, I adore that child. But he is one. You have four grandkids. I just learned the
I
other
do.
day. Oh, you had four. What a treasure, right? My God. And he's a wild one. He's a little bit of a wild one. And so I'm constantly learning how to be patient in greater ways. And so, but that doesn't mean on occasion I don't overreact, or kind of pull back. And then I have to think to myself, okay, okay, okay. And then I have to forgive myself for reacting. Because if I don't, it seeps in. Though all of the lack of forgiveness that's in us becomes dis-ease. It becomes dis-ease. It gets in the way of healthy relationships. And so
It's
and so many other reasons.
it's really it's feeling worthy. It helps us to, whether or not we forgive ourselves for whatever was, helps us with worthiness. And
Hmm.
for me, what the signs of it for me are the could have, would have, should have's, guilt,
Hmm.
shame, and fear.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
those are those real warnings for me that I need to go back within and know the perfection of spirit within me as an individualized expression. I am not meant to be like anyone else.
Right. Right.
And there's a lot of things. There's some things that I need to forgive myself for, and there's some things that I try to forgive myself for that are not, there's nothing wrong with it. I don't need to give forgiveness for that. So
Tell
for
me.
if it, and that's been a big awareness for me too, is that I always, for me, in my most of my life, I was running. I would run and do, and for everyone, everything. I was 24/7 running clubs, running groups, running an office, working full time, my business,
Basically prove
family.
your worth.
Yes, absolutely, externally proving my worth.
Got
And
it.
now I'm at a place physically where that's not even an option.
Hmm.
And it's not who I am anyway. So
Right.
there's a part of me that feels less than because I'm not doing all that. And the
Hmm.
truth is, there's no forgiveness needed. I'm exactly who I'm meant to be right now.
Mm.
But there's still that should have, would have, could have sometimes, the guilt or even shame that says, but you should. And I'm learning how to accept who and where I am is exactly where I'm supposed to be. And it's enough.
Okay. So I want to. Can I pick up on that thread a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So here's the thing. Number one, all of those elements are elements that I unpack specifically in the book. We unpack guilt, we unpack shame, we unpack fear and doubt. We unpack all of that because it all gets tied together. So here's the thing I want to tell you, and I have witnessed the miraculous in these classes. When we forgive ourselves enough, and let me make a note of the one word I want to make sure I capture here. Um, when we forgive ourselves enough, the would have, should have, could have feeling, that dangling feeling disappears. It it doesn't hang in the on the sidelines anymore. Because one of the things that you and I and people like us, if we are individuals who have made some questionable decisions in our lifetime, we have to forgive ourselves for suffering, and that's hands down one of the most important things. My my pain that I experienced and my pain that I partially perpetrated are all decades old, decades. But if we're decades later still talking about the same thing, we have to forgive ourselves for suffering. And that's what I feel like I hear in what you're saying. It's about forgiving yourself for the suffering. And that's an aspect that has a nuance that isn't, it's not real obvious, but it's very necessary. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. And it's not always. It's
Right.
just like you were saying, sometimes you're lying in bed and things come up and you're thinking, how did I, it, it it's normal. It's so important that people realize
Yeah.
it's normal for that self-talk to turn negative. It's not about denying it, it's being aware of it and saying, no, I pluck that weed of doubt. It's not the truth. And loving ourselves back to. So you give a lot of practical tools and ways to do that, which I appreciate because it's about a how-to guide. We're not born with the knowing of how to get back to or get to where we choose to be sometimes. And I love that you give a lot of practical examples and tools to do it.
Well, because here's the thing, and I love all the new, I mean, I can't repeat them to you because I have trouble reading them, but I understand them. I understand it when I'm reading, and I understand when I'm talking to people about it. All the brain sciences now, all of that comes into play now, and the changes. What happens is we are habit making beings. We're meaning making beings, and we're habit making beings. So when someone says to me, "Oh, I already forgave my mother and my father," that's probably true, but often there's still some dust left on the mirror of your being. And so the habit and this is the beauty of religious science. This is the beauty of science of mind and metaphysics as far as healing goes, because if you speak to if in the world of therapy, although I must say, and I'm going to be so arrogant right now, the world of therapy is finally catching up. They're catching up to the fact that we don't have to be at the mercy of these things for any amount of time anymore. See, people used to think they had to use therapy till they were like blue in the face in order to become free of it. Well, the beauty of metaphysics and science of mind and prayer and spiritual mind treatment, if you know how to pray effectively enough and you know how to sink down below the surface to where that creative process is really having its way within your subconscious, you can free yourself. You and I and everyone listening can free ourselves. But we have to get down below just opinions. And then that's where we start to create the new habits. So when a thought comes up inside of me about, maybe I didn't do something right, or a memory, I take care of it immediately because I refer to it as you're building your forgiveness muscle. It's a muscle. And once you do it often enough, and once you realize, and this is so beautiful, that the freedom that's possible from this practice, you can expedite it, and you can really truly expedite it. Because let's say I'm forgiving I'm a coworker, I'm forgiving an old coworker for something, and I go through the whole process and I use the exercises, and then I recognize that there's a place in this my coworker that is innocent, like the same place of innocence inside of me. Oh, okay, so that person must have needed something. Oh, okay. What do they need? Well, I might not know what they need, but their need bumped up against me. And I became the victim in the moment. And so when that happens and I want to find freedom, I'm going to do everything I can to now find compassion. Because if that person was in pain enough that caused pain, then I want to make sure that I can free them because I want to free myself in the same way. So the habit then of constantly being willing to forgive means that I can look ahead and not have to go through a lot of processes. What I do is now, once I build the muscle and find the freedom inside of my body and feel it, I'm not going to take on another opportunity to be upset. Right? Do you get that? Like I won't even invest the time in making somebody wrong. That's what I won't do any longer.
You react differently. You no longer act in the we don't we change when we understand,
Hmm.
when we've done sometimes I say the work, because it feels, the word doesn't necessarily feel like, because it's a gift to be able to process it. So when
Mhm.
you've done the work,
Yeah,
things that used to bother you don't anymore because you understand it.
yeah, yeah,
And I think that that's also important when we look at our society today, because there's that us and them mentality, unfortunately, especially politically.
yeah.
It's so important to know that, it doesn't matter what you believe, I still love you.
Right.
And when I can look at whatever it may be and say, but I still love this person because we are one. There's only one of us. So if I'm against you in any way, then that starts stuff up in me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So this work that we do doesn't just go to specifically, the circumstances of my coworker or even of myself. It's being able to accept, you know, people as people, and love them no matter what,
Mm-hmm.
and not necessarily take everything personally. It's,
Not
what
yeah,
you do is not about me.
yeah, yeah,
What you do is not about me, it's about you.
yeah, yeah. Right,
and
right.
and it doesn't mean we're perfect at it. It's a place to start.
It's a
But when we,
practice. It's a
yes,
practice. And that's why in the name it's a path of promise and a way of life. Actually, it doesn't say the practice, but it is a practice. But the way of life thing, because you'll always have an opportunity to forgive. You're always going to have a new opportunity. But what I'd like to do is I'd like to give a major piece of the tech. I call it the technology that's in the book that I speak about all the time. And you and I spoke about this last week. There are practices that we can do every moment of every day with every time we engage anywhere in life.
if you don't mind, I just, before you
Yeah.
get into that point, Martha says, as part of domestication, we're taught that we're either more or less than.
Yes.
Neither is true.
Right.
Practicing forgiveness of self and others helps us to be right sized. Love, perfect, whole, and complete.
Beautiful,
Thank you,
Martha.
Martha. Well said.
Hey, Martha, I hope you're going to church on Sunday because I'm going to be there. So, she's in your community or she's in the
She's
Concordia,
in
right?
Concordia, correct.
Yeah, yeah. Hopefully, I'll get to see her on
There's a
Sunday.
party at Concordia for anybody that's in the Northeast or wants to take a trip. There's a big party at Concordia on
You
Sunday.
better
So
stop weeping, Alan.
come on down. Concordia Centers for Spiritual Living is actually in Rhode Island. So by all means, we'd love for anybody to join us there this Sunday. And it's also online as well. So we're going to do CSL Greater Boston is also going to be a kind of a
Yeah.
joint service there. So it's exciting.
Woohoo.
So she'll be there.
Good, lovely. So the technology that when I'm teaching the course, so there's a book, right, and then there's the course. From the moment the course starts, the second someone registers, because the work always starts the moment you register, right? Because that's the commitment. The moment someone registers, they receive from me a package of what's called the pre-work. And in the pre-work, they're given assignments. The most important assignment given for the pre-work is the practice of non-judgment. And the non-judgment is critical because and this is way more than we could cover in the few minutes that we have. It's really a big subject because again, there's nuances to judgment. Everybody likes to then break out discernment. Yes, all that's true, but the fact is that if and I don't remember what she just wrote, but something that Christy just wrote.
Martha.
The less than, the either more or less than, right? So what happens is when we use judgment as a form of creating someone as inferior and making us superior, especially under those conditions, when we use judgment as righteousness to drive our belief system, all of these things, they're first of all and that you might not realize it. And I'm not speaking to you, Reverend Gina, but to every listener, because I know we've had these conversations. But being carrying judgment for anyone is painful to the self. We cannot escape that judgment. Yet, by practicing non judgment, what happens is we do not cause ourselves to have to forgive. So there's a couple of tools I'd like to give. One, if you're willing to practice it, start it right away. And it starts by watching your mind. We watch the tendencies of your mind and see why, where you judge, who you judge, what you judge. Like pay attention to all of those different things. Feel into them, pay attention. And then as you kind of get a grasp and you see your patterns and the trends, what you start to do is you practice like this. You notice the judging is about to start and you say to yourself, it's not good, it's not bad, it just is. But it comes up again. Up, nope, it's not good, it's not bad, it just is. And when you do that, you loosen your hold. You kind of pull back and you loosen your hold on that judgment. When you do that often enough and you create a new habit, you kind of open this space. Things become, there just is a freer space inside of you. The, of course, this work leads into shadow work, but I just don't want to open that door. But when you learn about the when you practice non-judgment and you find the freedom, what there you can see where your mind has been caught up. It's like walking through a thicket bush, and when judging all the time, you get all caught up in the thickets. But if you walk out and just to an open field, you walk freely, and that's what it's kind of like. But in order to, when you need to forgive, it's because you first judged. And that's clear. Some things are worthy of judgment. I also don't want to be unrealistic. There are things that go on in the world, there are things that have happened in our world that were hard.
Many, many. It's not, we do the best we can on a daily basis. There's not a one size fits all to anything. All it
Mm-hmm.
is really trying to have the practice of monitoring my actions versus reactions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there's so much conversation out there now. There's so much conversation around trauma, right? And trauma that's handed down through the DNA. Well, I'm glad it's finally really coming in full swing and coming out on the front stage of life, because I think of forgiveness as a 360 tool. We do start, and even in the book, we start by looking outside at others. Why? Because that's how we first notice it. That's how we first notice the pain. It's rare that we jump first to self forgiveness. That's usually something we learn afterwards. Now, in metaphysics, yes, yes, it is. Metaphysics is and people in spirituality, metaphysics, we usually have some of these conversations already, but for the common population, usually it's going to start on the outside. So we start on the outside forgiveness. We turn to the inner forgiveness, and then we look at in the book and we call it innocence. Although you could also call it purity. And what that is, it's learning to find that place in you that has never been hurt, harmed, or injured in any way. And when you recognize that lives inside of you, you recognize it lives also in your offenders, in those who have harmed. And as you begin to do that, you're elevating yourself, and you're building that spiritual forgiveness muscle, and you're building it and you're building it. And then Then we take time to look at family and we take time to look at our ancestors, not to make anybody wrong. You know, the 80s are gone. Blaming mom and dad and blaming, grandma and grandpa, it's over. Now that
No,
doesn't
that doesn't.
hasn't been intact, but we have to let go of it and heal from it and forgive so that that trickle down effect ends.
We have the opportunity to do that, and
Yeah.
you through this book and through your classes help with that in amazing ways. And while I would love to go further into it, the hours flying by, and we haven't even talked about. Tell us about the Planned Happiness Institute. I mean, I
Ah,
love the name, but I want you to tell us more about it because a lot of people don't know. So I would love for you to share more about it. And Evelyn just has a comment before we go into that. She said, finding the innocence is not so easy when you think the other person did you wrong. Exactly.
right.
So it's being willing to be willing sometimes.
Yeah. Hey, folks, I didn't say any of this was easy, but the payoff, the
I
payoff
know.
of freedom, the payoff to where things don't catch your. And I think I started to say this before, and I didn't finish, and then we'll move on as your request. I have watched relationships change like miraculously, where someone practiced forgiveness and we did deep prayer work and we worked with the subconscious and where the pain lived in the subconscious. And suddenly there's this miraculous shift in someone's relationship. I have a beloved member who's right now on the West Coast. Her brother just passed. She was having a tumultuous relationship with her sister, and she just couldn't find the way out. But then she did the work and she did the work and she created a miracle. Now, she's not the only one. I've watched these miracles happen, especially when someone takes responsibility and stops blaming. And that's all part of it. That's all part of it. Planned Happiness Institute. My
Well, no, it's a wonderful topic and it's so important because, like you said, it's like taking the thorn out of a side. It doesn't matter who did it. It doesn't matter why they did it. The thorn's not there anymore. If there's
Right.
only one of us and you've taken out the thorn, it's going to relieve something and the other person's going to feel it as well because there's only one of us. So if
Yes.
we truly believe in oneness and not duality, then we
Yes.
know that healing us is healing the whole.
Yes, yes. And you don't have to, you actually, it's nice if you have a conversation with another, but the truth is, once you heal it inside, because as within, so without, you deal with this within, the without changes. It changes.
It
You know.
does.
So, Planned Happiness Institute was the name of the community that I grew up around when I was knee high to a grasshopper. She was the woman. Her name was Reverend Doctor Reader Sperling Rogers. She was ordained by Irvin Seal. Not everybody will know who that is, but Irvin Seal he was ordained in Churches of Truth, and he was one of the first people to translate the Quimby manuscripts. Beautiful being. He was a beautiful consciousness. Oh my gosh. And the Planned Happiness Institute was the name of her community. She passed away, oh God, 20 years ago, maybe a little bit longer, and no one kept her 501c3, the Planned Happiness Institute, alive. So when I decided that I wanted to have a place for my educational, for my passion, my husband, that God bless him, Reverend Neil Pinkman, he did the investigation and he found out that the name was available. And here's what's in that name. You and I were born perfect. You were born perfect. You were born whole, perfect, and complete. And then sometimes life happens. So sometimes it doesn't appear as if you were born whole, perfect, and complete. But the assumption of that perfection always lives at the heart. always. And so, Planned Happiness Institute, the implication there is that you were supposed to be happy. The plan to be happy was in you all the time. And so that's the name, that's what that's about. And that's where I teach now my forgiveness courses, my shadow courses. We do the coaching. And nope.
Nope.
Uh, uh,
No, is that not
it's really revjerseygirl@gmail.com. I don't really use that email. Sorry. I
okay?
miss, is it
I
on the
went
web?
by your website. Sorry.
That's all right.
I'll give you.
It's Planned Happiness Institute .com. Yeah, it's that. Yeah, I just don't use that email. I use
Okay.
revjerseygirl@gmail.com. Don't want to let go of the Rev Jersey Girl. It's too precious to me. But yeah, that's the Planned Happiness Institute, and for me, it's a homage to my spiritual teacher, because she saved my life, because that's where I learned to practice forgiveness.
Hmm.
And she had me on the forgiveness path early. She had me sitting. I want you to imagine this. She had me sitting in a workshop with my father, who was abusive, doing a workshop face to face with him. I was 19 years old. So at
Wow.
19, I got to start that healing process. I mean, I'm a walking, talking, I am the walking, talking evidence of forgiveness. I really am. Because I could be curled up in fetal position on a floor, drunk, taking drugs, and condemning myself and being a rotten person if it wasn't for that opportunity. I could be all that, but
And
I'm
the
not.
healing work, as hard as it was, not only it saved your life, but it gave you a life.
It gave me a life, and I'm happy to see the residual effects. I'm happy to see my students. I'm happy to see the practitioners. I'm happy to see, the people in my community who, I bring up these conversations. They're like, yeah, 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 whatever, because we've had them so often and so long, but it's in them, and it's all, for me, it's all been about taking the science of mind and applying it for emotional health and healing. That's been my journey. That's been what I've always wanted to bring to my community and to the world at large.
And you offer classes, different types of classes that allow that so people can go to plannedhappinessinstitute.com and they can find out what the courses that you offer.
Yep, yep. And I blog every week. So there's a lot of blogs that are in there that are also about healing and whole and being whole and transformation. So yes, absolutely. Please sign up and participate, and become part of the conversation. You know, somebody I got a call earlier today from somebody who, the text was, "I'm having a rough time. Can we talk?" And so we chatted for a while, and we talked about options of what was going on in her life and what she could do. And she said, "I know what I want my option to be, because I know that's why I called you." Because if all you want to do is bellyache, you just call a friend. But when you want to transcend something, you call someone who's going to see past the story and past the pain, which is what we train as practitioners and ministers in this teaching. I mean, we are a valuable commodity. Really, practitioners, ministers, we bring a breath of fresh air to the world by not buying into the stories around us. It's a totally beautiful thing.
And it's a wonderful asset that people can utilize, whether it be at their centers or if it's online. It's
Hmm.
knowing, because we don't want to know the story. We just want to know, well, what's the outcome? And we know the truth. And we
Hmm.
can do that for ourselves. It's just learning how to. So
Yeah.
that's your contact email. If anybody is looking to reach out to you, I want to make sure that they know to do that. And you're in New Jersey. You're at CSL.
Yep, CSL North Jersey is the community, but we are in northern New Jersey in a little town. Not so little. I've now learned about much smaller towns, but we're in a little town called Denville. It's a little lake town. It's sweet and um,
Martha said, "Wow, what a blessing!" And then she said, "And in turn, you've helped countless others."
hopefully my hope and dream is that I can just incite in others to remember that they don't have to suffer. Suffering is an option.
Yes,
It's
it's
an
optional.
option. It's not required. And when we learn that, and when we do our healing work, and we do our forgiveness work, we really find freedom from those things. I want to leave a path behind me of just happy whole people, happy whole people everywhere. You
And
know.
you do coaching, and you actually work with people in sessions, and you also do. I know you also train trainers.
Yes.
You actually coach coaches. So there's so much that you do and you offer. So I encourage people to reach out to you if there's any questions or anything at all. I know that you
One
are.
more time, Gina.
Excuse me?
You show them the book one more time.
Absolutely.
And just so if you do look for it on Amazon, yep, it's Forgiveness, a Path, a Promise, a Way of Life. Yeah.
I just punched in your name and it was there.
Oh, really? Oh, cool.
Just punched in your name and there it was. So, definitely it is definitely a gift to be able to use as a resource, and it is an actual book that you write in. It's a workbook.
Yes,
And
it's a word designed that way on purpose. Yes.
and I have your other books as well, which are wonderful. So I encourage you to look at all of her stuff because it's all there, and they can all, people can go right there and take a look at it. And you offer different types of workshops, and you offer all kinds of stuff, so they can get on your. How do they get on your newsletter?
Right there on the Planned Happiness Institute, there'll be a place at the bottom. They could sign up for information. I send out a newsletter once every 2 weeks, really. Although I do blog on a regular basis, so they can get the updated blogs and they can get the newsletter. The and I will travel. I've done a lot of work with many communities for practitioners and working with staff and ministers. So I'm happy to travel, and it's my passion. It's really my passion is to help you feel like you love yourself more. That's my passion.
My first time meeting you was actually on a weekend retreat that we did that you had led for us. We had the first day was just practitioners, and the second day was for the community, and it was amazing. So I encourage people to contact you for their centers as well, because they were full day classes, and there's such moving experiences. So I definitely encourage people to reach out to you. And I'm just so grateful that you're here. And, they can also go on to, what's your website for your center?
CSLNJ.org. CSL.
Wonderful.
And I'm going to be facilitating a retreat in the Northeast, in New York State. So there'll be some information coming about that. I'd love to have you guys come and be at that retreat also.
I will definitely put that out and announce it at the time. You also have a Wednesday night conversation that you open to people via Zoom. So a lot of what you're doing for your center in general it's virtual. So anyone, anywhere can find out more information about it. So I appreciate that. And I want to make sure people know that, because there's so much good. Yes, on this network, we do all kinds of amazing shows, and that's wonderful. It is. I'm so grateful to be a part of it. And I really want to make sure people know that we have a prayer team here, ntmedia.org. It's prayer@ntmedia.org. And we are here to pray for you and know truth as well. It is all licensed practitioners and ministers, and we are all here for that. And thank you, Martha. The passion shows it is felt deeply. Thank you, Martha, for all your comments and your wisdom, and Evelyn and Wayne. And thank you for all being here. It has been a gift this hour. And I wanted to mention that I'm starting a class we've mentioned it a couple of times. I'm starting a class on Monday. and it's going to be on the 4 agreements. So this coming Monday, reach out to me. It's gina@cslboston.org. If you have any questions, you can call me or email me, and I would love to have you. Just reach out, and it would be wonderful to have you there. So we have that.
Course to teach, Gina. That's a great course to teach.
I have no doubt it's going to be so much fun. We get the opportunity in our life to do amazing things, and this is one way to help us have tools, practical tools too. This class helps with that, to be able to say what we mean what we say, not say it mean, and not take it that way either. And that's important. It's not just what's said, it's what I take from what's said. So it's being impeccable, but also, allowing, And tonight, if you're available, we'd love to have you join us. Every Thursday, we have a sacred circle at 7. And tonight is Reverend Christina K. Jones, who is going to be there with us. And the topic tonight is the new evolution. So every Thursday night it is our sacred circle at 7 p.m. and that's Eastern time. I want to make sure I mention that 7 p.m. Eastern time. So we're from wherever you are, go to the cslboston.org, or you can go to Facebook page and it'll give you the link to come join us on Zoom. And Reverend Michelle was there last week for us. She hosted last week, and I know we'll get her back. We're definitely going to invite her back again. It's been a gift to be here, and thank you, Martha. We appreciate you as well, and thank you for being here with us, Reverend Michelle. Thank you for doing the work that you do, because it's so important that the ability to love ourselves gives us a greater ability to love others.
Yes.
So we are the change that we wish to see in the world.
Yes.
And everyone needs to run out and grab your book. Absolutely. And I know there will be you'll have different workshops going on this. And I had one this weekend with you. It was wonderful. So I encourage people to make sure, that they come out and really give yourself the gift of healing. Give yourself the gift of healing. So thank you. And one more time, I'm going to put your contact info out there, and know that people can reach out to me as well. By all means, I'd love to hear from you. So thank you.
Thank you for playing with me again. And if you are in the Rhode Island area, Connecticut area, come see us on.
Join us.
Yeah.
We're going to have a great time on Sunday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern time. So, join us. You get the extra hour because it's the daylight savings. So
good.
Thank you. Thank you all for being with us, and, support our network. Know that we're here because of people like you. We thank you for it.
We're monthly givers. Dedicated.
As am I. It's just a gift to the world. We have a platform that gives the opportunity to do that. So thank you all, and have a wonderful week. Can't wait to see you again soon.
Thank you, love.
Blessings.
Bye all.
On behalf of everyone at New Thought Media Network, thank you for being a member of our virtual family. Your financial contributions help share the New Thought message with people from around the world. Please visit and contribute at www.ntmedia.org/donate.